TheLazyPeon's video is genuinely probably one of the best done Ashes of Creation videos I've seen on YouTube. And I think I want to watch it with you guys and give you my thoughts and opinions on the many things he talks about and try to elaborate on it and give you guys further context on this amazing video.
With the recent news of Amazon's New World being delayed until 2021,
New World, I've always been curious about it.
MMO fans being disappointed by this news, I decided that today I want to talk about the upcoming MMORPG that I personally believe to be the most promising, Ashes of Creation.
New World was interesting because a couple of my buddies got into the alpha for it and described it as survival light MMORPG, but it missed a lot of the classical MMORPG elements that makes, MMORs amazing. A lot of the fantasy elements are gone from it. So I'm curious to see how New World is going to be developed. I mean, it is Amazon, kind of a big deal.
Before we jump into it though, this video has no sponsor and took me a crazy amount of time to make, both
35 hours.
Research, fact
It's a long
checking,
time.
and editing. So if you'd like to support my work for free, this game has an affiliate program that everyone who makes an account has access to.
So that affiliate program is actually amazing because anybody has access to it. Everyone who has an account on the website can have access to the referral program. I highly suggest using Peon's referral code. I have a referral code. It's on my YouTube channel. It's on my YouTube videos. I don't really care about it too much. It's not a huge deal for me, but definitely support LazyPeon. I would love to see him go more hardcore into MMORPG spaces and not like do it as a part-time thing. He's amazing.
My link to this can be found in the description below, and all signups to Ashes of Creation before September receive a small in-game statue for your house.
So I'm told that this statue is really cool. It's because of the pandemic. Noticing that they're helping somebody pull through the portal. And Steven has said that this statue that can go on in your freehold might even pulse with light like a heartbeat, which is very, very cool.
To commemorate our struggles through COVID-19. So for those of you that have never
Look at
heard
that building
of the
go
game
up.
before, what is Ashes of Creation? Ashes of Creation is a Western-made sandpark MMORPG that's focused on a strong mix of both PvP and PvE content.
You need both.
This game was initially kickstarted 3 years ago, but was already fully funded to completion via private investment from the game's creative.
A lot of people forget that. I mean, the Kickstarter was amazing. It raised $3 million. It's one of the most successful Kickstarters of all time 3 years ago. But people forget that Steven is also funding this whole thing from his pockets. So regardless of how well the Kickstarter went, and it went phenomenal, $3 million is not even remotely close enough to fund an MMORPG development. So the fact that Steven's doing it himself, maybe with support from sponsors and from other people, I don't know. But it's amazing.
Director Stephen Sharif. Unlike many of the Eastern MMOs that have had Western releases over the past few years, Ashes of Creation has consistently said from day one that there will be no pay to win in this game. Due to this, the game will operate with a no box cost subscription fee business model with a cosmetic only cash shop.
I don't think you guys understand how amazingly important that is. So what? No pay to win. So no increased bag space, no increased weight carrying capacity, none of that garbage, and no box cost, but still having the sub cost. So the sub cost is going to discourage some hackers, discourage some trolls, some bots, because everyone's got to pay for the sub in order to make a new account. If it was free to play, you'd have a constant churn of those kinds of accounts, but no box cost also kind of lowers the bar of entry for new players to get into the space, which I think is really, really cool.
The thing that makes Ashes of Creation the MMORPG that I'm personally the most excited for is the sheer scope of the project. This game seems to be combining all the best aspects from all the top MMOs over the past 10 years and combining it into one game, with all of that being tied together by the game's most unique feature, its node system.
The node system is everything. It's absolutely everything.
Throughout the world in Ashes of Creation, there's points of interest on the map called nodes. These nodes are basically areas that can progress to different stages of civilizational development.
I love this animation.
As players kill monsters, quest, gather, and adventure within that node's area of influence.
Again, this is demonstrating that you don't need to just kill monsters to either level up yourself or to level up the node. You can do anything that provides experience. That could be PvP, PvE, it can be gathering, it can be crafting, processing. Everything you do in this game provides you with experience and also provides the node that you're doing it within experience as well to level up.
Starting out day one when the game first launches, the world will be pretty empty.
Which is awesome.
Let's say you and a group of friends all decide to kill mobs and gather in a certain area. Over time, you'll be contributing XP to that area's node, and an expedition will appear with quests. As more players are drawn to that area, it will level up into an encampment with more quests.
One really cool thing, day one of the server, you and your guild, you go through the gate, you're in Ashes of Creation, like, yes, we're here, let's go. What you can do is you can just get up, leave, go in a straight line that way for 20 minutes, go to a completely random spot on the map, and then start your leveling experience there. You don't have to enter the gate and then level up where you are. You can just go, let's go to that river over there in that mountain and that forest, and we'll make our node right there, which is awesome.
More NPCs and more opportunity. After that, the node levels up into a village, town, city, and finally a giant sprawling metropolis with more opportunity, world events, and quests appearing at each stage of development. Now that's a very simplified explanation of the Ashes of Creation node system, but on top of that, there's also a lot of variables within this system. For example, at launch,
look at this map. It's amazing how large this is. Now, I have a theory that the alpha map is that map in the northern hemisphere up there, is where the alpha is currently being tested on. But you actually see the little dots on the screen here. I'm not sure if you can see my mouse right now. There's little dots on the screen, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, which we believe are your 4 starting zones for Ashes of Creation. What's up, Sameric? I see you, buddy. How you doing? Oh, the map. This map is amazing. I have one question. Hopefully, Steven can clarify this. Can we sail west from this western island and end up on the eastern edge of the map like an actual circle? It'll be very, very cool.
103 different possible node locations, and the location of that node dictates the quests and world events triggered upon development. At this point, you're probably thinking, well, what happens when every node reaches its final stage?
Bingo.
Wouldn't that become boring?
Doesn't work.
Well, due to how the system's designed, this isn't possible. In leveling up one node, you lock out the possibility for adjacent nodes to grow to the same size.
That is huge. So if you and your guild focus on your node, or you're a bunch of guilds on alliance, focus on your node, and level your node up first, you lock out everything else around you from achieving your level. If you get to a city first, anything under your zone of influence becomes your vassal node, and it's locked out, and they can't become cities. So it's a race to get to a metropolis so that everything around you can't get there. It's awesome in that way. And that locks out content, because your metropolis here has certain kinds of content, but a metropolis nearby, if it was there, would have different content. And if you want to experience that content, well, you got to bring that metropolis down, burn it to the ground, build your own metropolis nearby that unlocks different content.
To change this and de-level a node so that adjacent nodes can progress, players will need to participate in a PvP node siege to destroy a city, for example, so the town node near to it has room to grow, and different content can then be unlocked.
I just said that.
The system is designed intends for long-term player-driven replayability,
He's reading my mind,
where each server will have a different history of development and unlocked content.
And that's really clutch. Like, every server is going to have different nodes. Every server is going to have a different metropolis layout and different dungeons unlocked and different raid bosses unlocked. It's going to be completely unique. It's insane.
No two servers will be the same, an MMORPG with a true ever-changing world. When it comes to node aesthetics, there will also be a lot of diversity here too.
Based off of the race.
As the node will take on the architectural appearance of the race that contributed the most XP to its development.
I know I'm pausing a lot, but this is actually really important. I would love to see a system where, because of how the node system works, encampment, right, and then a camp, and then a village and city, blah, 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 blah. Every time the node levels up, it takes on the visual appearance based off of the predominant race that provides experience at the time. So if you have elves in the zone, you're making elf encampments. And then if dwarves come in and they are the dominant race, all of a sudden it goes from an elf encampment to a dwarven camp. What I would like to see is the history of these changes be kept in the architecture of the city as it expands. Let's say dwarves make the encampment, dwarves make the camp, dwarves make the village. And then next time to a city, elves do it. I would love to see the middle of that elven city have the dwarven architecture. And then since the elves have moved in and taken over, the next outer ring is elven, right? And then at the metropolis stage, maybe humans move in. So the greatest elven ring, the greatest outer ring of the metropolis is human, and then there's elves inside, and then the center, the old town, is dwarven. I love to see that kind of history be maintained. That's a whole different programming difficulty. That'd be insane.
So let's say a guild of orcs went to an area and contributed the most XP to a node, building it up to a town. You've then got a town with an orcish aesthetic.
Which would be cool.
Maybe a guild of dwarves wanted to explore a node in the mountains. They could eventually have their own dwarven city in the mountains. Awesome. The aesthetic of the node changes at every level of development based on the race that contributes the most XP to the node. On top of all this, each node in the world will be assigned one of 4 possible
We talked about this
types,
earlier,
with each having unique benefits. benefits. You've got divine, economic, militaristic, and scientific node types. Advancing a scientific node over an economic node, for example, will give different building options for players to manage in the node, such as libraries, colleges, and artisan buildings, whereas if they leveled up an economic node, they could build markets, stock exchanges, and trade-focused buildings.
I want an economic node.
Each node, upon hitting the village stage of development, will have a 1-week cooldown before node elections begin. In this, players can try to become the mayor of the node. As a mayor, you get to allocate resources, set the tax rate, and
you're making all the decisions
to advance the node, as well as choose building projects contained within that node. The way the mayoral election system is designed is different for each node type. For scientific nodes, it's a popularity contest where you vote another player in.
That's where all the streamers are going, baby. Most of the streamers that just want to try the mayor once, they're going with the scientific node. It gives them the ability to, the Metropolis has the ability to teleport amongst his vassals, because it's scientific, and you have the popularity contest. So if you're a big streamer, that's where you want to go.
For economic nodes, it goes to the highest bidder. For divine nodes, the player with the most node-related service quests completed will become the mayor, and militaristic node mayors will be decided via a last-man-standing Battle Royale type minigame, where players interface through a champion rather than their own character.
So initially, the talk was it was going to be your character and your gear and your weapons, and the last man standing becomes the mayor. But then the developers started to decide, some people will have just better gear and they'll just be the mayor for forever. So instead, they're making a mini game system where your NPC champion is the person in the battle royale, blah, 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 last man standing wins thing.
Obviously, bad mayors will be a thing that exists in this game, so every month the election process will happen again so that other players have the chance to challenge for mayor. Other than its node system, Ashes of Creation is also aiming to have a diverse range of content to appeal to pretty much every type of MMORPG player. Let's start with some of the PvP content that will be present in this game.
PvP, now we're talking, baby.
PvP content in Ashes consists of open world flagging, caravan PvP, duels, battlegrounds, castle sieges, node sieges, arenas, and guild wars.
It's a lot of PvP.
Before all of you PvE players get scared off at the thought of open world PvP, you'll be happy to know that this game has anti-grief mechanics in the form of its corruption system. When it comes to corruption, players have 3 states: green, non-combatant; purple, combatant; red, corrupted. I've displayed an image on screen that shows how this system works.
Long story short, don't go around griefing lobies, you won't get corrupted. And if you get corrupted, there's actually stages of corruption that gets worse and worse and worse to the point where you are useless in combat and you'll drop your gear if you die. So corruption's bad.
But from the point of view of a non-combatant PvE player minding their own business, if another player comes up to you and kills you, they all become corrupted and receive ever-growing penalties the more innocent players they decide to kill.
And if you notice this graph, if you're a combatant and you kill corrupted, no problem. Combatants, purples, can totally kill corrupted people, and there's no penalty. You stay combatant, you don't gain corruption.
Eventually, corrupted players can drop their items, which can be looted by other players.
Huge.
They'll also lose more experience upon death, and also feel dampening in PvP, so they become weaker. Corruption gained is also greater based on the level disparity, so a high level randomly killing a new low level player really isn't worth it. Additionally, the game will have a bounty system where players with high corruption score will appear on the map for bounty hunters to track down and kill for rewards.
So here's the problem. How do you, because the bounty hunter system will be useless if no one is corrupted, right? And you can't advance your bounty hunter system. So there's got to be some incentive for people to potentially become corrupted because they want to get people's gear, or not gear, but like resources or something like that, or else the bounty hunter system is going to be superfluous. So we'll see how that goes.
And NPC guards will also attack corrupted players on site, limiting their access to services within nodes. The caravan PvP system in Ashes is designed to bring risk versus reward gameplay. Due to storage being localized to each node and different areas of the map having easier or harder access to certain resources, players will need to transport goods between nodes via caravans. When a caravan is spawned, it will create a moving open world PvP
caravan
zone.
master in the wall.
When players approach the caravan, they'll be given 3 options: attack, defend, or ignore. Caravans can transport goods from more than one player at a time, and I can imagine this system alone will bring about the existence of mercenary guilds who attack caravans or defend them when paid by other players.
I will definitely want to run a mercenary deal that goes out and either defends or attacks caravans. I love PvP. That sounds fun. Jordan brings up interesting piece of information. Non-combatants drop more materials on death than combatants. That's the incentive right there. I asked, is there incentive? There it is. So if you see somebody gathering wood and you gank them and they're non-combatant and you gain some corruption, you're also gaining a bunch of their resources. You gain more of their resources if they're non-combatants. So that is the reason why someone might want to become corrupted. There's the incentive, and now the bounty hunters come in and punish, and there's that incentive. That's what I wanted.
Castle Sieges will be a monthly event in which guilds can
This
fight in a
is so
250 versus 250 battle to take control.
Also, to clarify, the developers have said it's going to hopefully start at 250, but they like to try and get it up to 500 versus 500 in a castle siege. Mind-blowing.
Control of one of the 5 castles in the world. Node sieges are different to castle sieges and are the catalyst for change in the world. Node sieges can last up to 2 hours. If a node is successfully defended, it can't be attacked for a certain period of time in relation to the level of that node. A village, for example, can't be attacked for another 20 days, whilst a metropolis can't be attacked for 50 days if successfully defended.
That's good.
Additionally, once a node siege is declared, there's a period of time where many services in the node are shut down in preparation for war.
Stock
for a
market.
village siege, there's 2 days notice, and for metropolis, there's 5 days notice.
So guilds can't just gang up on one node back to back to back to back. If the node is successfully defended, there's a cooldown before that attack can be declared again. That's kind of important.
These node sieges can only be declared within a certain period of the server's prime time to give everyone a chance to attend. If a node siege is successful, the node is reset to 0, and players with resources stored in that node will lose some of those resources, and real space player housing will also be destroyed. Guild wars are another separate PvP system in Ashes of Creation,
This
which
I want to know more
basically
about.
allows guilds to declare war on each other and receive certain objectives to meet a victory condition. This system isn't fully fleshed out as of making this video, but it seems like a more in-depth version of what Black Desert Online currently has, with objective-based components mixed into it too.
That was
Guilds
my
can be at
comparison
war
video.
against multiple other guilds at the same time, and guild wars operate outside of the game's corruption PvP flagging system. I think duels, battlegrounds, and arenas are
These are
fairly
simple.
self-explanatory
Yeah,
features that
there's
Ashes
no
of Creation
explanation
will
there.
have that we all like to see in MMOs. But overall, when it comes to the PvP content this game will have, it sounds like everything I've ever wanted in an MMO, from the risk versus reward of the caravan system, to node sieges being the catalyst for change in the world, to the prestige of your guild owning one of the 5 castles on the server. It seems like this game has PvP content for everyone, from casual to hardcore and everything in between.
Yeah, this game is going to have a heavy PvP content. And what I'm afraid of is all the PvE people who are the more friendly side and don't want PvP combat may be turned off by this game. And that's fine. Again, this game isn't being developed for everybody. It's being developed with a certain kind of MMO gamer in mind. And that's just the way it goes.
PvE content will play a massive role in Ashes of Creation and features content in the form of quests, open world dungeons, instanced dungeons, open world raids, instanced raids, world bosses, and monster coin events,
Lots of
as
stuff.
well as all the activities related to the growth of nodes. PvE dungeon and raid content in Ashes will be designed for group sizes of 8, 16, and 40 players.
And one thing I want to clarify here with the 8, 16, and 40, Steven has said that there are dungeons designed for 8, dungeons designed for 16, and dungeons designed for 40. So you're not going to have a situation where you're simply doing the same dungeon regardless of your size and the mechanics change a little bit to incorporate more people. There are literally dungeons designed only for 8 and only for 40. And the 8's never going to go in there and the 40's never going to go in there. There are different dungeons, kind of like old school World of Warcraft before they changed their entire system.
Players. This game will feature a mix of both open world dungeons and raids, as well as instanced dungeons and raids, with 80% of them
80%
being
open world.
and 20% of them being instanced. There will be no group finder in this game, so you'll need to join guilds and find party members via social interaction if you want to partake in a lot of PvE content. The way open world dungeons and raids will work is that they increase in difficulty the deeper you venture inside.
Which is cool.
At the entrance you might be fighting weaker, lower level mobs with fewer mechanics, but as you get deeper into the dungeon you'll fight tougher enemies with more mechanics and better loot. Additionally, something you need to bear in mind is that all of the PvE content that's available in Ashes depends on the location of the nodes that the community decides to develop.
Which it means it's why PvP and PvE are so integrally combined here. You may hear from a buddy of yours on a different server that the metropolis located over here in this part of the world unlocked this really cool dungeon. But on your server, that node's not there. So you and your guild may make an alliance of guilds that wants to unlock that raid and take down a nearby metropolis so you can build your metropolis over there to unlock that raid. And that means that the PvEers who want to raid in specific dungeons for specific drops may need to become part of the PvP world to allow those things to happen. It's really cool.
One server may have access to completely different raids and dungeons to another server purely because their nodes developed differently in different locations. So unlike other MMORPGs, the endgame PvE
non-linear
really isn't a linear progression.
No rails here.
Linear progression because different raids and dungeons will be locked or unlocked depending on where nodes are developed and what stage they're at. So in a way, it could also be in a PvE player's best interest to participate in a PvP node siege to reset the node that unlocks a certain raid so that another node can then be developed which unlocks a different raid. A fun, unique piece of PvP content that I think a lot of people will enjoy in Ashes is its monster coin system. This is an event that either spawns randomly or following the advancement of a node in which a horde of NPC monsters will spawn and attack the node. During this time, players can use an item called a monster coin, which they can receive as a rare drop in game, to turn into a monster and assist the NPCs in attacking the node against
which is so cool.
Players. During a monster coin event, the node can't be destroyed, but buildings, services, and NPCs can be disabled for a period of time.
So an interesting thing about that, let's say your guild is trying to mess up a neighboring guild's node, right, their city. If an event happens, if an event occurs, you can't just create them, they happen and based off the game's rules. If an event occurs, your guild could use your monster coins to inhabit the monsters that were already attacking that node to do a better job of disabling that node so you guys can advance faster. Remember, these coins don't spawn the event. The coins give you permission to join the event and maybe swing it in your favor.
Quests in Ashes of Creation are divided up into 3 categories: events, tasks, and narrative quests. Events are things that happen in Ashes as a result of the development of the world. Successfully completing an event will have positive consequences such as buffs, and failing events will have negative consequences such as natural disasters or node services
natural
for a
disasters
period of time. Tasks are quests without excessive amounts of text and story around them.
Bring me
such as
10
collect
ingots.
X resources to help build a blacksmith for the node.
Yep, that's fine.
Narrative quests are more traditional story quests that can be personal to your class, race, or the region of the world you're in, with some of these story arcs being locked behind further development of the nodes.
So I wonder if you need to have nodes in certain locations to unlock certain aspects of class quests or race quests. And also, how good will these class quests be? Will they allow you to have access to amazing weapons or armor that only your class can use, that are very powerful, and maybe the equivalent of raid gear? Could it be a way of additionally progressing the power level of your character as opposed to simply raiding? Interesting. Role players, here you go.
As a role player, Ashes of Creation is without a doubt the MMORPG I'd be looking forward to the most. This game's being designed with so many great RP features to really add that extra
emotes
level of immersion.
and tavern gambling.
Let's talk about the extensive player housing system.
This is huge.
This game will have 3 types of player housing: instanced apartments, real space open world freeholds, and static housing within nodes. Each of these 3 types of player housing become available once a node reaches village stage or higher. Instanced apartments will become available in a node if a mayor decides to construct apartment buildings within an empty plot. These will work similar to the housing system in BDO, where you approach an apartment door and you've got a list of options for whose apartment you want to visit. Static housing within nodes are real space player housing that players can buy that will be visible to everyone. You'll be able to decorate the front of your house with yard ornaments, seamlessly enter and exit, and see your house grow from a small cottage to a mansion as the node levels up.
That's huge. So if in the village stage you have enough money to buy an in-node static house that everyone can see and everyone can knock on the door and come on in, if you have enough money to do that at the village stage and your village makes it all the way to the metropolis, by the time you're at a metropolis, your tiny little village home, since it's in the middle of town, has become a mansion. And there is also the ability to buy and sell real estate. Remember that.
Freeholds are large real space player housing plots that can be situated within the zone of influence of a node, but not actually inside the node. Think of static housing as buying a townhouse that grows in size over time with the node, but
Anyone notice the Steven mural up here in the wall? There's Steven in armor. That's amazing.
Freeholds as owning a set size plot of land in the countryside.
Yep.
Freeholds are roughly half an acre in size, and due to limited space in the world, players can only own one of these per account, whereas apartments and in-node housing are limited to one per server. There's many buildings you'll be able to place on your freehold, such as a blacksmith.
So does that mean I can own a freehold and an in-node static house? Because I want to run a freehold. I want to put a tavern on a freehold and stuff. But if I can also own an in-node static house, I could level that up and then sell it for profit.
Stables and other stuff related to crafting, role-playing, and other related content players might want to partake in. Each of these three forms of player housing will allow players to decorate them with furniture, some of which is functional, others just cosmetic, and when a node's destroyed, players will lose their housing. However, a template will be mailed to them so they can quickly load the layout of their housing hassle-free when they eventually find a new home.
Yep.
As with every good roleplay MMO, Ashes of Creation will feature a wide range of races.
9.
Currently, the game is planning on 9 playable races for launch, each of which have different cultures, which will be reflected in the appearance of nodes that they contribute to the most.
Yep.
You've got 2 different variations of humans, dwarves, elves, orcs, and a race called the Tulnar, which...
Let me go back to that image for a second. Hold on. Let me show you that image for a second. So what I like about this is the different races. There's basically humans, dwarves, elves, and orcs, and then the underground people. But even amongst the races, there's 2 different varieties. So in the humans, you have these like typical, like, you know, World of Warcraft, Stormwind humans, but then you have these Eastern influenced humans, the Indian kind of Middle Eastern influenced humans. You've got 2 races of dwarves, your typical standard dwarves, but then these natural by the water reeds and stuff kind of dwarves. You got 2 types of orcs. Again, the Renkai, typical power, strength. The Vek are a race of orcs that are spiritual and celestial. They read the stars. They're the astronomers of the world. An orc that's an astronomer. How in the world is that possible? In my brain, I think of like Lord of the Rings orcs, but these developers are like, no, we're going to take the concept of an orc, flip it on its head, make them intelligent, cultured, about space and astronomy, and all those kinds of things. And then you've got your militaristic elves and then your wood elves, which are pretty standard in elven lore amongst fantasy games.
Race called the Tulnar, which live underground.
Different
people. Races will have different racial abilities, and each race will have different base stats.
Yes!
However, there will be no gender lock for any races, and every race can play as every class. Other nice RP features the game will have include an extensive emote system with interactable furniture, the ability to lean against scenery, sit on benches, and dance with other players.
Yep.
You'll be able to play parlor games with other players inside of taverns, some being dice games, others involving cards. You'll be able to join different types of social organizations in the game, such as the Scholars Academy, Thieves Guild, or Traders Company. And there'll also be a marriage mechanic in the game that may unlock special quests and further functionality with player housing. Overall, from a roleplay perspective, it seems as though there's going to be more than enough choices and customization in Ashes of Creation that each player's journey in this game will be completely unique. And it will also have all the immersive social elements that can help bring people together in an MMO.
The crowbar, you know.
Skills in Ashes of Creation are referred to as artisan classes.
This is important.
These are split into 3 different trees. Gathering, processing, and crafting. Gathering professions consist of fishing, herbalism, lumberjacking, mining, and animal taming. Processing professions basically refine raw material via the use of certain freehold buildings, such as forges to process ore into bars, lumberyards processing logs to planks, and so on. Crafting professions consist of alchemy, armor smithing, blacksmithing, carpentry, cooking, jewel crafting, scribing, shipbuilding, siege weapon building.
Let me pause this menu. So in the crafting section of all these types of crafting, you have armor smithing, weapon smithing, and blacksmithing. And I'm curious to see what about blacksmithing is valuable, is interesting. Like, why is blacksmithing separate from armor and weapon? What can the blacksmiths do that those guys can't? Where's the value there? I'm trying to figure that out. Maybe as the game is developed, we can actually dive into it and take a look. Shipbuilding and siege weapons, though, you're going to need people in your guild that are master shipbuilders and master siege weapon builders.
and
It'll be very interesting.
weaponsmithing. In this game, each character will only be able to truly master one profession. You'll be unable to master multiple. You'll still be able to progress with multiple professions, but not to the extent of mastery. This is to create the need for community interaction and create a sense of identity.
That's so important. It's so important to make it so that players need to interact. If you can simply do everything yourself, it takes away the multiplayer aspect of the game. I think that's right. I think the developers are doing a good job on that. And I don't want to be able to do everything all on my own. If I did, I'd play an offline RPG, not an MMORPG.
Crafting in Ashes of Creation is also being designed so that it won't become irrelevant like in other MMOs. Crafted gear will be on par with the highest tier drops from raid bosses.
Crazy.
And due to being limited to mastery of only one artisan class, guilds will have to organize multiple people to meet their crafting and gathering needs to initiate sieges, complete projects,
work together, baby.
and
Teamwork.
contribute to the node. Personally, the profession I'm most excited for is animal husbandry, as you'll be able to breed different animals together to create some really weird and wonderful mounts.
I, for one, look forward to riding a panda lizard. This we don't know too much about.
Ashes of Creation is quite interesting and leads to a lot of variety. First, you'll start out by picking a primary class archetype between bard, cleric, fighter, mage, ranger, rogue, summoner, and tank.
I'm so curious about all the main
Eventually,
classes.
as you progress with your primary class, you'll get to choose a secondary class out of the same 8 options I previously mentioned. So choosing to be a mage, then fighter for example, would give you the overall class of battle mage. With this system, there's a possibility of 64 different class combinations.
Here are the names for the 64 different class combinations. Now, keep in mind that the subclasses do not completely change your class. They change some of the functionality. A fighter, again, I use this example all the time. The fighter who becomes a mage becomes a spell sword. That does not mean the fighter is all of a sudden casting fireballs, right? He's still a fighter with mage flavor. Now, how much is it flavor? How much is it functionality? We're going to have to wait and see how the developers balance that. I personally, Steven, if you're watching, I personally would love to see each of these 64 different subclasses have one unique ability to them. One unique ability that is not part of the primary class. Just one. The Tell Sword has one unique ability that you go, that is the Tell Sword's unique ability. The Magician. Now, this means you have to develop 64 unique abilities. But as opposed to having the secondary classes simply modifying the primary class's abilities, I want one cool ability for each of them, which could be difficult to do, but that'd be very cool for me.
Nations which are displayed on screen now. Ashes of Creation will be designed around the Trinity system of tank, healer,
if it ain't
and
broke,
DPS.
don't fix it.
You will not be able to change your class's primary role. However, with some effort, you will be able to change your secondary role.
Which is fine.
Weapons and armor will not be class locked, but some classes will obviously be more efficient with certain types of armor and weapons.
Yeah, if you want to be a mage wearing full plate, sure you could. You might be missing out on some of the benefits of wearing cloth.
And when it comes to the game's combat system, it will use a tab target action combat hybrid system. The way this system will work is that each class will have 2 categories of skills: tab target skills and action combat style skills. Players can choose to have up to 75% of either tab targeting abilities or 75% action combat abilities, but not 100% either way.
Now, the developers have said, last I remember, this is some time ago, that they're going to try to create this system. Try to create this system that you can swing mostly combat, action combat, or mostly tab target, and they're going to try and make it work and try and balance it. But if I remember correctly, this could have changed. The developers have said that if this system cannot feel good, if they can't get it to work properly, to feel good, to feel fluid, or to be relatively balanced, their backup, their fallback is full tab target. Because that's tried, it's tested, it's true, it works, people can use it of all types of skill, and if things don't go great, they may fall back to tab targeting.
Personally, the way I'd imagine this system will play out will be something close to Guild Wars 2 or Arcade. However, the action combat side of this combat system is still in development as of making this video, so it's hard to say how the complete system will actually feel.
I can't
When
wait to see this
starting
world.
out in Ashes of Creation, you'll first make your character, choose your primary class,
Yep.
then you'll be given the choice to spawn at one of 4 divine gateways
Yep, the dots,
in the
see?
world. Each race does have their own starter zone and starter quests, but they won't be super mandatory to do, more of a recommendation.
So if each of the races are going to spawn, you've got plains in the top right, you've got this forest here in the middle, you've got this watery port grassy bit in the southwest, and then mountains in the northwest. If I had to guess, just pure speculation, elves are spawning over here by this forest in the middle of the map. Okay, I would think the orcs might be top left in this mountainous range. No, dwarves. Dwarves are top left mountainous range. Elves might be in the middle of the map in this foresty range. And then you've got orcs and humans. I'm thinking humans in the grassy bit by the water and orcs up in the snowy tundra mountainous terrain in the northeast. That's just my guess.
There's nothing stopping you as an elf spawning in the dwarven starting area to level with your friend. The world size in Ashes is planned to be truly massive, approximately 480 square kilometers in size, including both water and land content,
Ocean content, guys.
as well as a diverse range of biomes ranging from deserts, swamps,
and
plains,
seasons,
forests, snowy mountains, tropical islands, and everything in between. This game will be fully open world and also features underground zones known as the Underrealm.
And I can't wait to explore the Underrealm.
Will feature an in-game viewable world map. However, starting out, much of it will be covered in a fog of war until areas have been explored and uncovered.
Which is really cool.
Additionally, there will be some zones in the world that will experience all 4 seasons, which will bring about their own events, buffs, debuffs, and farming challenges. Seasons will rotate once each week, with a full 4-season rotation passing by every 4 weeks.
Now,
when it comes to the leveling, the max...
Now, some people have argued that they would like to see the seasons be longer, like a month-long season, 1 month of summer, 1 month of spring, etc. But with farming in this game and the crop cycles necessary, you don't want to wait that long to harvest your crops. You only harvest your crops once every 4 months. So I like the 1-week seasons, because that gives you as a farmer the ability to harvest your crops once a month.
Next level will be 50, and it will take roughly 45 days of playing 4 to 6 hours per day for the average
long
player to
time.
level from 1 to 50. So definitely more on the hardcore side of things in that regard.
A long time.
Unlike a lot of modern MMOs, flying mounts will be extremely rare in Ashes of Creation.
It's huge!
It's achievable only for guild leaders that own one of the game's 5 castles, the mayor of Metropolis nodes, and through legendary limited time dragon eggs that players might obtain from a world boss.
What do you guys think about
It's
that?
unlikely there will ever be more than 10 players.
What do you
per
think
server
about
with
flying mounts being
temporary
rare, guys?
access to flying. And when you consider that each server will have a population of between 8 to 10,000 players, seeing them will be really
10
epic.
flying mounts
It's also
amongst
worth
10,000
mentioning
people.
that fast travel will be extremely limited in this game, as the developers want distance to matter. The only form of fast travel that will be possible is if a scientific node reaches the Metropolis stage.
Yep.
At this point, players can construct a building that offers fast travel only to nodes within the Metropolis's zone of influence. But that's pretty much it for my basic explanation of what Ashes of Creation
Such a good video.
is without going super in-depth on stuff.
Super
Next, I want to
in-depth!
talk about why I believe this is the most exciting upcoming MMORPG, and why this game isn't just a pipe dream, rather something many people, including myself, will be testing with no NDA before the end of this year.
Yes! NDA hopefully lifted by the end of the year.
It goes without saying, after everything I've
Gorgeous.
just explained about the game,
Gorgeous.
it will be the most ambitious fantasy MMORPG
That's
ever
putting it
attempted.
lightly.
The game will truly have something for everyone. It's not just a PvP MMO or a PvE MMO, it's a genuine PvX MMO that has pretty much everything. Usually when a new MMORPG is announced and they talk about their plans when it comes to game design, it's always vague. There's a ton of question marks on many core systems, and it doesn't take long before players can look at the ideas of the developers and straight up say, this is a bad idea, this won't work. New World has been a perfect example of this since the first time I tried the game in 2018 to recently when it announced its delay. When it comes to the game design of Ashes of Creation, it seems to me that almost every aspect of the game has been clearly thought out, and thanks to years of Q&As between the community and developers,
3 years.
we have a clear blueprint for how this game will actually play out if you care to read it on the Ashes of Creation wiki. When it comes to the core game design systems, there's nothing I'm overly concerned about. Everything seems to make sense and follow a strong design principle of risk versus reward. For me, the only real question mark I have about the game is how fun will the combat be? What does their
That's the big question. Huge question.
action tab hybrid combat system actually play like? I think if they can nail that and just follow the blueprint for this game until completion, it will be a guaranteed success. Ashes of Creation is primarily a privately funded MMORPG made by an MMO fan frustrated by the direction of the genre, who was extremely successful in business earlier in life. Since I first covered this project in 2017, we've seen the studio he created expand to over 100 developers, attracting people from Blizzard, Sony Online Entertainment, Daybreak Games, and
a lot of big names there.
This year especially, we've seen production for Ashes of Creation ramp up significantly, and in recent live streams we've seen gameplay sessions of many core systems working, such as the mayoral system, early hybrid combat, real-time node development, open world dungeons, a 40-man raid, the caravan PvP system, basic professions, and the purchasing of in-node player housing.
Like, it's amazing to see all these changes, all these developments since way back in the day when we had the BR and no MMO anything, and we're all just like begging for real MMO footage and MMO systems being working, and we're getting that. And it's insane.
What's more impressive is the creative director's commitment to transparency, despite the project still likely being a solid 2 years from completion. Sometime this fall, we've been told that people who have access to the game's Alpha 1 test will be able to stream and make content about the game with no NDA. And when you consider that Amazon's New World still has a strict NDA, despite previously being 2 months out from its supposed release, to me shows a lot of confidence in a product. Now, all of that's not to say that Ashes of Creation hasn't had its problems or drama surrounding its development, because it certainly has. Releasing Ashes of Creation Apocalypse, the Battle Royale testing environment on Steam, caused nothing but confusion to the people that were casually following the project, and in the past the community went long periods of time without seeing any tangible gameplay due to an issue.
Yeah, it was brutal. The BR was fun, and I argued that if the BR was good, it'll be okay. But the market spoke, and the market said that it wasn't as enjoyable as the developers were hoping. The developers did the smart thing, took it down, and stopped confusing the world, stopped confusing potential viewers and potential gamers, and focus on the MMORPG, which was the correct decision.
Where large portions of foundation code had to be rewritten, essentially delaying the game by 1 year. But in 2020, we've really started to see Ashes of Creation come together. Almost every monthly live stream we've been shown new gameplay. We've already had players get into the early Alpha 1 client and talk about their experiences, thanks to no verbal NDA.
So since there's no verbal NDA, I believe I have access to this alpha test later this month, hopefully, if everything goes well. And the server's gonna be up for about 10 hours, and I'm gonna be playing during that. So once that's done, guys, I will be making, I'll get here into Twitch, and I'll talk to you guys. I can't record anything, but I can talk to you guys about my experience in the world of Vera in the upcoming test.
And community perception of the project as a whole has shifted from extremely skeptical to cautiously optimistic. Whilst there's still a long road ahead for Ashes of Creation, I have to say that in the 5+ years I've been a full-time MMORPG YouTuber, this is the only upcoming MMO that I've been able to look at and say to myself, if this game releases, it has a real chance of being the next truly successful MMORPG.
It's so true.
Thanks for watching.
It's so true. What do you guys think? What do you guys think of that video? I think TheLazyPeon did a phenomenal job. He covered everything you could have ever needed, everything you could have ever wanted.